Alrighty. Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, Sam.
Are you ready?
I don't know. I'm dying.
We're both dying. We're so sick today, so don't mind the sick voices.
Yeah.
So today, I thought it could be interesting to go through some moral questions and what our opinions are on different moral things.
Okay.
This was sparked by a tweet that I saw, but we'll get into that. I have a different question first.
Okay.
Because this seems like a good launching kind of
Launching
pad. So my first question, how do you decide what is moral and what's not? Ooh.
How do you decide what is moral and is not?
Okay, so I think that when it comes person to person, I think it's instinctual. Okay. I think that you know what feels right and what doesn't kind of thing, and what jives with you basically. I think as a society, it's almost like the average of that. We all kind of come to understand and agree certain things, and that's just what becomes socially acceptable within your society. I think the issue that we run into is that sometimes that conflicts, because if it's not instinctual, that means it's coming from somewhere, which could be either culture, religion, different stuff like that. So that's where I feel people kind of end up going up against each other.
Yeah, I feel what is moral is learned, I guess.
What do you think?
I'm sure that it's instinctual to some people, but I think that you do have to learn, because stuff that we thought was fine even 40 or 50 years ago,
so.
You know what I mean? So I do feel I think that it's instinct, certain things are instinctual for certain people, and then if they can get enough backing or whatever, what's that thing?
Reassurance, basically.
Yeah. Then it kind of becomes this thing, and then everybody can start to see oh yeah, that was a little immoral, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it's hard too though, because it's almost as if because different places have completely different morals and beliefs, obviously. Right. For a number of different reasons. But one thing that has just always kind of sat sort of weird with me is there's this dog meat festival in, I want to say it's in China, but it might be in Korea. We'll look it up and we'll fact check. But there's this dog meat festival, and every single year people do this huge petition against this, saying it's horrible. And obviously I love dogs. I wouldn't eat a dog. I don't think that's okay. There's something weird about it to me, because I feel how are we to say that that's not okay? Because we don't do that in our culture, but we're fine with any other animal, just not specifically dogs. And there's a few things that go into the dog meat festival, just because I know there's going to be someone in the comments, because it's not something that's been around forever over there. And it's something that sort of was, as far as I understand, created to kind of push sales of dog meat. But anyways.
Okay.
But what do you think about that?
About specifically the dog meat festival?
No.
I was I don't know anything about it.
Just about where do those morals kind of end, basically, across borders?
Oh man, this is my brain is just turning a million miles a second. I think you're exactly right with the fact that different cultures have different senses of what is moral and what societal laws you abide by. I think that for me, at the end of the day, what I try to do is I don't know if it's because I watch so many doctor shows, but I try to do no harm, basically. Yeah. That's literally what I try to follow. So if I'm doing harm to somebody, whether that's physical or emotional, I don't know that I've really done anything physically harmful to anybody.
Alyssa has some stories to tell.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. That's kind of where my moral compass lies. But yeah, that is so interesting, because I know that other cultures obviously feel cows are sacred, or pigs as well. Yet in Western culture, it's not that way for a lot of people. Yeah. So I totally understand what you're saying in that regard, and it is interesting.
Yeah, it's hard, because I think that a lot of Western people, if you were to pose the same argument of being well, we eat cows, blah blah blah, they'd be yeah, but it's totally different. I just feel it's so we're so desensitized to it here, because that is just what's socially acceptable, that it's unfathomable to eat a dog.
Yeah.
But it's so different. Like, it's so different.
Yeah, I wonder, okay, so the reason I think that it's so unfathomable to eat a dog, which I agree, I would never eat a dog.
Let's just clear the air.
Yeah, but is because it's domesticated. And so we, this is my opinion, but like we as a society have become friends with this animal. And that is how I feel that vegans who don't eat meat or animal byproducts or whatever feel about all animals. And I like in my understanding and like in this head, that's how I feel, is that they feel like all of the animals are their friends, the ones that are doing it for the animals type of thing.
And I think in different cultures as well, and like different parts of the world, there is such a problem with like so many wild dogs that it's sort of like dogs are just seen as like, they are just seen as like wild animals kind of thing. Yeah. It's not like the same kind of like companionship sort of
right. And piece. It's like, I mean, like I said, I don't know anything about this festival, but almost like it's like food is food type of thing. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm not endorsing this festival.
No.
I don't know. There's just something that's always kind of not sat right with me, because I feel like it just doesn't really kind of like make sense to me to judge somebody else's culture and morals and all that. Like, it's just such a sticky situation, but let the record show that I do not agree with this.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, that is what we're trying to do on this podcast, is like make these topics that are like harder to talk about because they are like sticky situations, and talk about them in like
approachable.
Well, I was gonna say appropriate, but like an approachable way where you can feel safe.
Okay, so moving on to my next question. This was what sparked this whole idea for this podcast for me. I saw this tweet that was basically like, this girl was saying, like, she was like, you too spend your money on drugs and alcohol. Don't act like you're above giving $5 or $10 to a homeless person.
Right.
And then there was like all these people in the comments, like basically praising that. It was like a really popular tweet, got retweeted a ton. And I don't know that I agree, and I do feel like there's a difference between that, but I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Okay. So from a really, really young age, when I was in grade 6, I got invited to like a speaking conference because, I mean, it was all like other grade 6ers, but it was like a big conference.
Don't know if you've heard of it. It's called TED Talks.
I'm like 12 years old. I'm like the youngest kid up there.
Hi, guys.
But for a speech that I wrote on homelessness, I've been really, really like wanting to help the homeless for like a very long time. And I do have a lot of feelings about it. In recent years, my efforts and like my understanding of what to do to help have like gone on the wayside, because I think that it's just such a more complex situation than my 12-year-old brain could have ever understood, obviously. So what I will say is I did know some police officers at like as acquaintances, not like in a bad way.
I was awfully acquainted with some police officers.
Yeah. But from the Vancouver area, who did work downtown, and then on East Hastings, which is like the main homeless street.
Yeah, East Hastings, for those that have never been to the Vancouver area, it's just one street that's just really, really saturated with drug addiction, homelessness, and it's just a really bad area, basically.
And those police officers were saying that there are a lot of those addicts, because quite a few of them are addicts. They do have places to go. And like homes and shelters and stuff that will take them, but that they choose to be on the street because obviously their addiction is running their life at that point. And so that, when I found that out, it kind of did open my eyes a little bit into like, okay, so having a home isn't the issue here, right? So then I kind of had to like reevaluate and reassess like what I was going to do to help. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but anyway. I don't think I do give homeless people money. I think I have a couple of times, but it's usually when I sit and like have conversations with them, which I actually don't find myself doing very often because we live so far out of the city. But even recently I was at like a grocery store and I saw this man sitting outside with his sign and everything, and so I bought him like a blanket and because it was really cold, and like a sandwich and Gatorade and stuff like that. So I think that the way that I try to feel about it is that if I can help people that I feel a connection to immediately, I will.
Yeah.
But I've also been privy to and close to and struggled with addiction myself. So I understand that if money is available to you and you have addiction, that is
where it's going
to go. And I would rather focus my efforts on keeping a person who's in active addiction fed, warm, so that they're not getting sick, that kind of thing. I would rather focus my efforts there than on them being able to get more drugs, because honestly, if they need to get more drugs, if they're in active addiction, they'll find a way.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't need to be me. What I want to do is keep them like safe and as healthy as they can be.
Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of like, I read that and I felt like it was just, the original statement to me was just like awfully reductive. Like, I feel like it's just such a like you're looking at one side of the coin and there's so many different aspects to that. I feel like there's so many other ways that we should be helping outside of just giving people money here and there. Because ultimately, yeah, like if it is someone dealing with addiction issues, I don't want to, enable that. And I don't want to be part of that. And so it's hard because like I do feel like there's a difference between someone who's using drugs and alcohol recreationally and someone who's addicted, and especially if that was something that led to that circumstance. I think that there should be so many other resources in place for these people, mental health wise, addiction wise, right, all that kind of stuff. And I think that is like really where people's focus should be, not just about like whether or not it's petty to feel like you don't want to give money because they're going to spend it on alcohol, which to me is like, I don't think that that's unreasonable.
To not want to give people money?
To not want to give people money thinking that it's going to go to like substances. Yeah,
well, at the end of the day, the money that you have is yours.
Yeah.
And you can choose to do with it whatever you want. And I totally understand that as well. But I agree that I think that people look at homelessness and homeless people as look down on them so much.
Inferior, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't feel that way.
Yeah,
and
of course.
And I do feel like whether you're in active addiction, you're in recovery, you have mental health, or you just had a shitty situation at home and you've been really fucking down on your luck.
Yeah.
I look at all of that and I do want to help. And I think that there should be like centers and stuff like that available. And honestly, there's a lot of misconception about that kind of stuff. Even when I was in Denmark, they were my like extended family was talking about the homeless situation in Vancouver because they knew that I was moving here, and they were really not educated on it, and I had to educate them, and I had to bring up facts that was proving them wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really disappointing that these people who are literal like adults and very educated, like my extended family, they all have like multiple degrees and shit, because like education's like subsidized by the government out there. And I was just like, man, how disappointing.
It is disappointing. And like I think again, like it's sort of like culturally we look down on those people, and we feel like when the people that are like, get a job, oh my god,
yeah,
like that kind of shit drives me nuts. And like going back to the lack of education and the kind of like stigma around homelessness, for those of you that don't know, there's a really kind of like controversial program in Vancouver called Insight, and it's basically just it's a legal safe injection site. So they supply needles that are like safe and new, and they have medical staff on site to help if like you were overdosing or anything, whatever. And a lot of people like really look down on this because they feel like it's like the government basically being like, here's drugs kind of thing. But that sort of like intertwines with this whole concept of like you're not about to change someone's mind by like giving them money or not giving them money kind of thing, because they're already in that situation. And I think that when it comes to like the drug problem, especially in Vancouver, Insight has been unbelievably like successful. It's been so helpful for the community, because instead of people going out and, spreading different diseases, which can be spread through used needles and all this kind of stuff, less people are dying, less people are overdosing. Like it's just not overdosing, sorry, less people are dying from overdoses.
Right.
And I think that that's it is so beneficial, and instead of trying to forcibly rehabilitate these people that maybe are like you said earlier, like maybe they don't even want to be rehabilitated. It's sort of just giving them like a safer means of living comfortably. And I think that should be the goal. So I think exactly like you said, just like, you know, offering things that they need rather than giving money for
right,
who knows what.
Right. And I don't know, I shouldn't have said, well, I don't know if I did say this, but I don't mean that they don't want to be rehabilitated, but maybe they're just not ready.
Yeah.
Because I think that deep down everybody does want to get better.
Yeah.
But I think that I mean, I've been there. So yeah. And I think that another thing, I know that this is going off track, but another thing that adds to the stigma is people look at addiction as inferior.
Oh, for sure. Oh, there's like such an issue with that.
Well, yeah. And I mean, if you even look at like, let's say like the opioid crisis, I'm so sick. Which is generally speaking, the safe injection site is like for opioids, because why can't I say that word?
I don't know.
Opioids. If you look at that, I mean, most of the people that I have come in contact with who have an opioid addiction have gotten their first hit from an actual doctor because they broke a bone or like whatever. I know that there's people who didn't and they, you know, went through the gateway drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, you don't even stop to think about like where these issues and these addictions are stemming from.
Yeah. And I think that there is just such a lack of education around it. And that's been something that's kind of like interesting in my relationship with Matt, because again, like I just think so differently from him. I haven't struggled with addiction myself. So like, it's so hard for me to understand compulsion because like, that's not my reality at all. And I think that a lot of people feel similarly to that. And that's kind of where like all of these stigmas come into play, but it's so unfortunate.
Keep saying it. I keep saying it. If you haven't been there, you can't understand it.
Okay. So I disagree with that tweet ultimately. Okay, so this was something.
However, I will.
Go ahead.
I will say about that tweet. I think, I think that is extremely reductive. I think that it's important that people are talking about it more.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it gives a platform. If that tweet got really popular, it gives a platform for people to start educating. Because there could be uneducated people in the comments, and then there could be educated people in the comments. So that's good. All's well that ends well.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a statement that you made in a previous podcast. I'm going to be paraphrasing a little bit. So we had been having a discussion basically about aquariums and eating meat and stuff like that. And you said in a previous podcast, I think eating meat and seeing a whale in a swimming pool is different. So my question is, why is that different?
Okay, so I do remember that podcast. That was the bucket list podcast. I feel like, I eat meat, first off. I feel like because meat gives us sustenance, because it fuels us, for me, there's a purpose to that. I understand people's right and choice to not eat that, because you can sustain life without meat. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. But because it serves a purpose, I feel like that's so different than taking this creature, this beautiful animal that needs space to live and roam, and putting it in a swimming pool. And just because I eat meat doesn't mean that I agree with factory farming and all of that stuff. Because of course I'm also horrified in the way that a lot of like chickens and cows and pigs and stuff like that, especially in the US and Canada, I'm sure, but you hear about it a lot in the US, are raised and then farmed. And when I went to Iceland, it was actually like so eye-opening, because they don't do those practices. My brain is shutting off. With their sheep. We got to watch the migration of sheep, and though they only live for a year, those sheep live out their lives in the wild. And then whoever owns the sheep, the family or the company or whatever it is, they all go out on horseback. They take 2 horses so that they can switch horses, and they go and herd these sheep. And those sheep live like their whole lives, which is only a year, like I said, but they live their lives like in the mountains, and then they come and then are taken to feed Iceland, mostly Reykjavik, because that's where most people in Iceland live. So yeah, I don't agree with like a lot of the factory farming and stuff, but I do think that there is such a difference between me going to a zoo and looking at this, like these animals caged, and me sustaining my body with fuel.
Yeah. Okay.
Disagree.
I don't even want to go as far as to say I disagree. And I want to preface this by saying I don't judge people that eat meat, regardless of the fact that I choose not to. It doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't bother me, but like I'm not like sitting there like seething about it or like judging you. Like I just feel like it's so socially normal. And it like I don't judge people that eat meat, point blank. So I think the main difference is that it's just a lack of exposure. We pay to go into an aquarium. We get there, we see it, and we can just like see and feel how wrong it is. We're not paying to go into a slaughterhouse.
Right.
And I think that if that exposure was there in the same way that an aquarium is, like not like you're just seeing images kind of like in passing, but you're there seeing it, I think that would be such a different thing for people. And I think that lack of exposure isn't going to exist, simply put, unless you're going looking for it, and you're not going to.
Right.
And I think that is what creates that disconnect. And ultimately, I feel like that is why certain forms of animal cruelty are not seen as being as severe, because it's just not what happens to resonate with that individual person. So I think that is where people can kind of put things on like a little bit of a ranking system. Like, okay, eating meat, not that bad. Whales in an aquarium, real bad. Mink eyelashes, don't love it. You know, like you can kind of go through and compartmentalize all of these different things because of that lack of exposure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I understand that. And I could be vegetarian one day. I don't know.
I'm thinking about it now. So.
No. But like that's the thing, is I'm not like crossing it off of my list. I was plant-based for a while back in like, I don't know, 2014 or something like that, because I had seen a bunch of videos and stuff. But ultimately that kind of started to lend into a really restrictive like eating situation for me, and I lost a ton of weight, and I just kind of like started restricting more and more, so it wasn't healthy for me.
Yeah.
And the way that I eat right now is the healthiest that my body feels. I did try to take away meat last year, and it didn't really go that well. I was really sick. And you and I were actually talking about this last night. It's kind of like a system where you have to, it's like trial and error. And because I'm like just defending why I eat meat now, and I don't need to, but I'm here now. Yeah. And
we've gone down this pathway, so
yeah. And my body isn't like healthy enough right now to start like fucking with it, basically, now that I've found something that's working right now. But yeah, I do agree with that. I think that there is a big difference between us being able to like see with our own two eyes, like something's not right here, and then having to go onto like YouTube or something to like watch it, because watching a slaughter in a video is a lot different than watching it in front of your eyes. I'm sure I haven't witnessed one.
Yeah,
but I would.
Nor have I. I really like the point that you brought up about how that led you to disordered eating. Not that that's like the norm, but I think that that's really important to note, because something that's always really bothered me about media and content involving eating plant-based and veganism and all that kind of stuff. Jesus Christ, that is a carbonated drink.
Sorry.
Something that's always really bothered me is I feel like a lot of vegan media is very, very reductive. I can't stand it. I've never liked the argument that like it's easy and anyone can do it and you should be doing it, and what, like, I just feel like because it's easy for you doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for everyone. Right. And I think that that's like a really good example, because a lot of people do kind of argue back being like, well, there's medical reasons, and people are like, what medical reasons? But that is so true. I'm not somebody that like struggles with disordered eating, except for I eat a lot of poutine. But like when I was eating vegan and I was like into it and I was consuming a lot of media and stuff like that, it was hard not to go down a path of kind of like getting very obsessive, like orthorexia kind of thing, like obsessive about what you're eating, how you're eating it, all that kind of stuff. Like, should I cook this? Should I not cook this? What's going to be more nutritious? Like just things that like you can't see the nutrition, you know what I mean? Right. Like it's not like you can actually really calculate yourself whether or not cooking it for 3 minutes versus 5 minutes. But like, I think that stuff like that can lead to it. And I think that's a really valid point that you just brought up.
Thank you.
I appreciated that. Okay. I think I'm going to know your opinion on this, but maybe not.
Okay.
Should we allow euthanasia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I go on?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there should be strict guidelines on like what is, you know, acceptable.
But what guidelines? I was thinking about this earlier and I was like, but really, like, because at first I was like, okay, you have to be in a sound mind, but like how, like, yeah, sorry, go on.
So off the top of my head, I haven't thought this through because okay, so some, like, when we do these, Sam doesn't give me the questions beforehand so that I can come out with like a cool answer. It's like, this is happening now. So off the top of my head, what I would say is that you would have to sign it, kind of like a DNR, like a do not resuscitate. Like if I'm in like palliative care or like something where like a terminal illness, but do it while you're in your sound mind.
Yeah.
Sign that and say, at this point, this is my like, we're doing it type of thing. As long as I say I want to do it type of thing. And I believe in it, especially because, as a lot of you know, I lost my dad. He did not want to be laying there unable to care for himself. And he was really scared about being like unconscious and being able to hear and whatever, and not being able to itch and stuff like that. And I mean, and he was terminally ill. Like, he was going to die. It was just like
a matter of time.
Exactly. And so he wanted somebody to do something if that was the case. And I was like, well, obviously we can't. Yeah. And we obviously didn't end up doing anything that's illegal. But I do know what it looks like, and the desperation that people can feel in those moments. So that is why I feel like we should allow it. But I think that it is dangerous, and I understand why it's so.
There needs to be like such intense restrictions around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to this. There's a podcast, actually, it's out of Halifax, I think. It's called Sick Boy. And it's these, I think there's 4 guys, but basically they interview people that are ill in any different way. And this one lady was going through with euthanasia. Euthanasia, just in case no one knows what it is, or someone doesn't know what it is, it's just assisted suicide. So she was going through with euthanasia, and I like was sobbing that entire thing. But like, she had planned like this like really like special day kind of thing. Like, this friend of hers was going to come in and play guitar, and he had like a specific song, and then she was going to be like around like a few people that she wanted, and like just like planned this whole thing. And she was like, I think that's so beautiful that I get to control that thing and like make it this special moment. And it was just like such a like cool way of looking at it. Cool way. But like it was
a different angle. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like really just, it was pleasant and like heartbreaking all at the same time.
Yeah. I just don't feel like there's a necessity for human suffering like that.
Yeah. And I think that it's just so, this is what's so unfortunate about medical care is like, obviously we can never know what you're actually feeling in your body.
Right.
So like, you would potentially present as being a healthy, like normal, whatever kind of thing, but no one can know like what's, doctors know, but like they don't know.
They don't feel it.
You know, like what's going on with every different thing in your body. And I think that that's what's so unfortunate about that is like this person could really be suffering and seem like they're still okay. Yeah, I just think,
like I said, my dad was like that. They kept sending him home. I'm like, are you fucking joking me?
Quit sending him home.
Because like, this man is literally going to pass away, and I'm gonna have to walk in there. Like, goddamn. Yeah, but that is true.
Okay. Should we impose population control?
Oh. I read a book about it when I was in like elementary school or something. I can't remember what it was called.
Jesus, that's a heavy topic for elementary school.
No, not really. It was kind of, I mean,
okay, first graders.
Sort of. But I can't remember what it was called. No, I won't remember. But anyway, it was basically like, you were only allowed to have one kid. Yeah. And then you had to hide your other kids.
Oh, it was like a fiction book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it wasn't like an actual thing about like population control and like whatever. But
yeah.
I did have a pen pal from China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she asked if I had any brothers or sisters, and I said I had a brother, and then I asked her if she had any, and she said that we're not allowed.
Yeah.
So I did become privy to that like really young. I don't know.
That one's like, I feel like a tricky one.
What do you feel?
Okay, so I think the main issue with population control is that it would almost inevitably lead to like valuing one sex over another. And so that would be an issue, because if people were editing genomes to have only boys, and then we wouldn't have enough diversity. You know what I'm saying? It's slippery slope with that editing genome. Okay, but
do you think that the world's still like that they value men over women?
Depends on the culture.
Okay.
But I think generally speaking, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It is interesting. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But there was this video on YouTube. It's super short, but it was a really interesting explanation of population control and how, you know, like a lot of like people kind of believe in implementing this.
Okay.
But that almost like populations do start to like balance themselves out. And so they talked about how, you know, like especially like in third world countries, it's sort of like people were having a ton of kids because so many kids were dying off. So it was like they would just like they wouldn't end up with that many kids, but they'd have a ton of kids. And then like as they gain more resources and stuff like that, these kids aren't dying off as quickly. But then people eventually start having less kids. And like it just said that like, you know, historically, this is kind of the pattern that it's followed, is that like over time we do kind of get to a place where we're not overpopulating anymore. And naturally that kind of happens as we have more resources.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that I don't know that the issue is overpopulation as much as it is that there's a lack of infrastructure in place to contain the side effects of that population, because obviously we have so many like ecological problems from the amount of people there are and driving cars and industry and all that kind of stuff. But I think that should be, it's almost like people will do anything to control people without having to change business.
Yeah.
And I think that business should be the thing that's changed before implementing population control.
I agree with that too. I think if population control was a thing, it would just lend to crime. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, because, well, I'm getting this from like a 6th grade fiction book, but when I was reading this, it was like these people had to hide these hidden children.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was called Hidden. Anyway.
I read the same book.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. And people had to like do different things and break the law and stuff like that. And then the government would have to be somehow figuring out what to do and like cracking down. And then would we be in like this society where there's police coming to your house and ransacking your house and stuff like that? Like how logistically, like how would this law
and I think that it would
out?
lead to like a lot of like unhappiness, frankly,
Yeah.
because like that's just such a intensive law. And it's so personal getting into that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just think that can lead to no good personally, but
well, and our generation is having less kids than past generations anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. On the topic of children, there was a Black Mirror episode, and it was about a mom who...
Oh my God. Weird that I referenced Black Mirror and then you're referencing Black Mirror.
So this episode was about a mom who basically, she had something like implanted into her kid, and then she could watch the kid's like every move on this iPad.
I saw that one.
Yeah. And she could actually also put on this thing where she could see what her child was seeing. And it was a really fucked up episode. Anyway, so then another thing that I saw recently, there was a thread on Reddit about a parent who intercepted this email that their child got from Google. And basically the email said like, hey, now that you're 13, some changes can be implemented to your account. And it allowed the child to then change like different settings that the parents had set. And the parent was like super pissed off about this. So my question is, at what point does surveillance under the guise of protection become a privacy issue?
Can you read that again?
At what point does surveillance under the guise of protection become a privacy issue? So you could even put this into like, you know, how like bars would have cameras everywhere, but like obviously it'd be inappropriate to have a camera in the bathroom.
Right. Well, you already know that one of my biggest core values is privacy.
Yeah.
Like I find I hold privacy and like trust and stuff like that like really to a really high standard. So I don't know at what point for me necessarily, but I think that whatever my point is, it's a lot, like the line is a lot thinner for the crossover. I don't believe but I might eat my words if I'm ever a parent, but I don't I don't believe that parents should know everything that their kid is doing.
Yeah.
I do think that privacy is a part of growing and learning and becoming your own person, and kids aren't always doing shit that is bad. It's just like they need to do it themselves without feeling embarrassed, and no matter how open your household is, sometimes you just want to deal with it on your own.
Yeah.
That's the same way I feel about like sharing passwords with like partners and stuff like that. It's just like, am I doing anything wrong? No. But sometimes I don't want you reading exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't, under protection, yeah, I guess any home that you own, I don't think you should have to have surveillance there. Bathrooms, anywhere where you're naked, I guess. I don't know where like the line is. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, like I think when it comes to like parents and kids, there's a lot of things that are very thinly veiled as protection, but it really comes down to control.
Yeah.
Like the email about like that kid being able to change his settings and stuff like that. I mean, he's fucking 13.
Yeah.
Like if the kid's gonna watch porn, like he's gonna watch porn, he's gonna find a way. Like, and I think that there's things like that like, are you uncomfortable with the idea of your 13-year-old watching porn or doing something like that online? I'm sure it's not the best thing to think about in the world, but like it's natural. And like I think that there are things like that where parents are trying to be controlling in a way that doesn't allow for that child to, you know, explore the things that we all naturally do explore. Mm-hmm. And when you were a kid, you might have known that you shouldn't be doing that, but it didn't feel probably like you were doing something inherently terribly wrong. Just like you knew you'd probably get a slap on the wrist for it. And I think that that's what it comes down to, is like at some point, I think that it's important to be able to allow your kid to make those decisions for themselves, as scary as that is. Mm-hmm. And I can't obviously imagine being a parent, and I'm sure it's so different, but
yeah. Well, I think in a perfect world for me, I would want there to be a level of trust.
Yeah, exactly.
But between us, wherein if I ask something, you feel comfortable enough telling me about it, even if it's like porn or something like that, or like being sexually active. Like that was a huge conversation in my house. Like it was never something that we couldn't talk about, anything related to like the nether regions or whatever.
The nether regions.
Yeah, it wasn't like a weird topic or like uncomfortable for us to bring up or anything like that. And I think that that's huge, because a lot of like even what I learned in school it wasn't right for my body.
Yeah.
Like what they were saying things looked like or whatever, that wasn't how my body reacted to those things. And so if I didn't have my mom to talk to or whoever to talk to, I would have never known,
yeah.
I guess. So I think that by just like putting blocks on stuff like that, it makes I mean, again, I'm not a parent, but I feel like it would make your child think that, okay, well, it's not okay, so I can't talk about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What about things like parents putting on, like, let's say their kid has a phone, which like it's fucking crazy to me that like literal children have phones, but anyways, what about your parents putting on, like, you know how you can do like Find My Friends on whatever, so you can permanently share your location so people can see where you're going and stuff. What do you think about that, with parents doing that to their kids?
Interesting. Gosh, I think that I would like that though.
See, but that's the thing that's difficult, because on one hand it's sort of like it kind of goes into that dilemma of like your child needs to like make their own decisions and like spread their wings.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like that, like it would be so helpful to know where they're at without having to ask them constantly and bother them, so they can go do what they want to do. And also just like if something did go wrong, at least you know where they are, you know? Yeah.
Here's what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't put it on their phone without asking.
Yeah, of course.
So,
well, not of course. I mean, there's people that would for sure. Yeah.
I shouldn't say asking. I would tell them that this is what's happening, probably, because, I mean, my family actually, I don't, because I lived in Toronto, so there was no fucking point to. But they share their location with each other, just so that they know like where they are and like whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I would just be like, this is like, I want to know, like, so that I can pick you up or like whatever, so that I know you're safe.
Yeah.
Just let me know. Again, going back to the trust thing, I would hope that if they wanted to change from the initial plan, that they, like, say they wanted to go to the movies or something like that, and then after they wanted to go to Starbucks, I had friends who were scared to tell their parents that we were going to Starbucks after the movie, whereas that wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
I would just be like, hey mom, just letting you know, like, we're going to Starbucks after the movie. I would just be like, just tell me, like, just let me know or whatever. And then if they forgot to tell me, because that's the thing is sometimes kids aren't trying to be deceitful. They just get caught up. Yeah. And I could be like, oh, hey, like, did you, like, how was the movie? And they could be like, oh, good. Like, so sorry. I'm just like at Starbucks or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, I think because I am such like a literally paranoid person, I would, because if I had a child, it would be like, oh my God, all consuming unconditional love. I can't imagine. Like, I'm not ready.
The second eye water of the episode.
Yeah, I can't. That's like, your thing is the chef's kiss. Mine is the eye water. Yeah. So I think that I would be like, just so I would be so scared if like my kid stopped responding or something. Yeah. And I feel like it would make me feel better if I could see their like little dot like moving around or something like that. I don't know. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy. I think that like that episode was so hard to watch because like I did feel for the mom because like, sorry mom, but like I saw my mom in that mom a little bit because she just really cared so much and like she wanted her daughter to just be okay. Yeah. And I think that that's like what's so sad. The thing that I think that much surveillance and kind of like protecting and putting up walls and kind of stuff can do is that it actually sometimes puts your kid into even more dangerous situations every now and again. And so
in what way? Sorry.
Because I think that like, just like you said, if your kid feels like it's a no or whatever, then they're like, well, I can't talk about it then. So if that happens to me, I can't call you or whatever. So, you know, like, because kids will do what they are going to do for the most part. Like someone's going to probably overstep whatever boundaries you've set either way. So I think that if you've made it an environment where you're so kind of like overbearing and like looking over everything that they're doing, I think that would just lead to even more secrecy. And then there can be situations where like you don't know where they are, you can't come pick them up, you can't help them, you know, like that. I think that I would feel similarly, and maybe we will eat our words when we're parents, but I think I would feel similarly, that I would want to create that kind of environment for my kid where they can talk to me, even if it's something that like, you know, is maybe a little bit more taboo. You're doing drugs, you're having sex, whatever. Yeah. I would want them to feel more comfortable telling me rather than being more comfortable with the lie.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So that's
well, and I do believe in like the way that you, like the family life that you bring your kids up in, and like, just like having a healthy dynamic. For sure. I think that stops a lot of that, like really like what we view as like scary behavior from even happening in the first place. I always go back to this. I had one friend in middle school, their family was like a healthy family unit from the outside anyway. And I think it was. All of those kids are like geniuses. They never went through like any like crazy shit that I know of. Like they all turned out like perfectly. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, they had dinner all the time. Like they were allowed to like go out and do stuff, but they never felt the need to like rebel or anything like that. Yeah. I just look at that family and I'm like, okay, like that's how it should be done. Yeah. You know what I mean?
think it's just like, it's such a delicate balance. I think it's such a delicate balance of like protecting and guiding and stuff like that, but also not stifling. Right. Yeah, it's so tricky. I think like with the surveillance thing, just to wrap this one up, I feel like if it was my kid, I would probably want to put that thing on their device. Like, let's say they were like 9 and had a phone, which why? But anyways, let's say they were like younger and had a phone. I think I would probably have that on the phone until like a certain age. And then be like, okay, it's your choice. This is why I like to have it on here so I can see what you're doing without you having to like tell me or whatever. But if you're uncomfortable, take it off.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there would be like a certain age. Yeah. Much like when you get to drive a car, it's like, okay, well now you get to make adult decisions.
You get new freedoms.
Yeah, because you're an adult. Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Do you believe in curfew?
Yeah, you know, I just don't know. I do, actually. I do believe in curfew. I had a strict curfew.
What was your curfew? Like fucking 5 o'clock?
In grade 10, it was 10. In grade 11, it was 11. In grade 12, it was 12.
Yeah, but you were grounded all the time. You never got to stay out.
Yeah, but like I do believe in curfew because I really do feel like the kids that I've seen grow up with structured things like that, I don't want to say have turned out better, but like they have healthier dynamics in a lot of ways, in like their personal life with their family, just different. I just think it's good. I think it's like a good thing. So I do believe in curfew. I think that it should be flexible, not day-to-day flexible, but like you have an event that you're going to and whatever. And I also think when it comes to like saying no to your kid, I think that I don't want to say you should always have a reason because I don't want to eat my words. But like, I really don't believe in no because I said so.
Yeah, the because I said so, like that's a no for me.
I don't like putting that idea into someone's mind that like I have so much control over you that I don't need to give you any kind of reason. You just listen to me. I think that that's not a positive thing. Like I think that it's natural for people to question things and wonder why and stuff like that. And I do also think that there should be a reason behind why you're telling someone no, they can't do that. So for instance, when we were kids, we tried to go camping with a bunch of boys, and I was like, hey mom, because I was like gonna be like honest about it. I was like, hey mom, can we go camping with a bunch of boys? And she was like, no. And I was like, why? And she was like, because I don't want you guys to go up there and have sex. So it's like, okay, fair enough, but like at least I had a reason as to why.
I didn't know she said that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she said that. Or she wasn't that
like blunt about it.
It was a little more veiled. She was like, when boys of that age get together, I just don't think it's a good idea. Like, yeah. But like I think that it's a positive thing. Say no to your kid by all means, but I think there should be a reason behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that saying because I said so doesn't lead to any education.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, okay, well, what you say goes. Like, what about when those people, like, I know this is like a little dramatic, but like when you enter the workforce and people say no, that kind of stifles innovative thinkers. It's like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
I'm all about the why.
Well, and I think that there should be an opportunity to challenge certain things. Like I think my dad made a speech at my wedding where he said that like raising boys was so easy because he would just tell them what to do and they were like, okay. And then like he would tell me what to do and I would like put up an argument and then he'd make some good arguments and then he'd be like, okay. Like, but I think that is a good thing. Like I think that you should be able to kind of question the status quo and say like, why is this way? And is there a better way to do this? Is there a way that works more, like it's more mutually beneficial? I think that that's a good thing. And I think that leads to like a more open communication overall, which can lead to your kid being safer.
Oh, she really made that come full circle.
Yeah, there you go.
I do believe in curfew as well. I'll just put that in there.
Do you?
Yeah. I didn't have one.
Yeah, you loved the fact that you didn't have a curfew at the time, but...
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I actually... I'll quickly go into this. I did have a curfew. I kept breaking it. And then eventually I didn't have a curfew because I kept breaking it, basically. But I do think that structure is important, but I think that you have to be able to back up that structure with something worthwhile.
Yeah.
So if I'm not allowed to go out, like I don't have curfew, I think that there needs to be other things set in place that keep you occupied instead of just being in your house, in your room, watching TV.
Yeah.
Because boredom is the silent killer.
We weren't allowed to have TVs in our bedroom.
Yeah. TV was a big thing in my house.
Yeah. Okay. Should we get involved in other countries' issues, in your opinion?
Involved how?
Okay, so... I had this as a follow-up, but I'm going to join it now. So issues like the concentration camps that are taking place right now in China, first of all, do you feel like it's none of our business because it's not our country? And secondly, do you feel like it's not worth it because you're then avoiding potential world wars rather than getting involved?
I don't know enough about world events and politics to really like responsibly answer that. My instinct is that I think that we, regardless of what like imaginary fucking borders we've painted in our earth, I think that we are all one human race. So I think that we, in theory, should be helping each other. But I'm also not privy to the, not idiosyncrasies, but what am I trying to say?
I have no idea.
Like the details of what goes into possibly like the ramifications and whatever of possibly helping with these things. So in a perfect world, yes, I think that we should, but I think that there are people so much more qualified to say like why we aren't or why we are.
Yeah.
But things like famine and disease and stuff like that. I read a book about influence, and not in like the social media influencer, but how like we can influence people to make more positive decisions to help them in their daily life, basically. And they were talking about this thing called the gilly worm, I'm pretty sure it was. This was a while ago. Anyway, this group of people like managed to influence this other group of people to change their practices so that they eradicated this parasite, basically. And I think that is like, even just things like that are so helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as a grand of a scale as obviously the things that you mentioned, but I do think that we have, as humans, part of the human race, we have a responsibility to help other humans as a part of the human race.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's because a lot of people like look at things, and those are very extreme examples that I first listed, but it was supposed to be a follow-up. But like I think that there's things like people feel like, well, we have people that are starving, we have people that are homeless, we have people that are blah blah blah, and so I think that people feel like, why are we not focusing our sights here rather than overseas or wherever?
Right.
But I think that like, first of all, I feel like it's not mutually exclusive, because like really you should be doing both. And I think especially, you know, being in a country that is so rich in resources, it was really disappointing. There was a time where Canada was bringing in a lot of Syrian refugees. And a lot of the people on my Facebook at the time were basically saying like, this is ridiculous. Like, we're bringing in these people and they're going to be taking our resources and stuff like that. And it just was like, I mean, first of all, yes, there are parts of Canada and there are certain groups of people especially that are not given the same resources as other people. These are people I went to high school with. When have you ever noticed a lack of resources, dude?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it's unfortunate because the general mindset of people, like movers and shakers, is not to actually help people. It's just to make money. And right. I think that that's the real issue. I think that we absolutely have a responsibility to help other people, and I don't feel like you should just be pushed to the wayside because you happened to be born in a different country.
That is what I was going to say next. That's the thing. It's fucking happenstance. I was thinking about this the other day. It's just like, it's like you won the lottery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't say that in a way, I don't want that to be misconstrued. It's just like, we live where we don't have to worry about where our next meal is coming from, or our clean drinking water, or if the air is going to give us cancer in however many years.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is quality life. Like, that, wow, crazy, amazing that we were born in Canada. We didn't choose that.
Yeah, and I think that it's just like you're almost like looking down on other people for something that they did not choose and they could not have chosen. So like, it's just such an unfortunate thing to me. And I think that we would feel differently if we weren't in such a privileged country. Like, I don't think people would hold that belief if they were in a country where they felt unsafe or, you know, any of those things. And I think that that's something it's just so sad. It's so sad that there's like that lack of empathy and connection between people, because as much as like obviously we're worlds apart in a lot of ways, it's just like if your country was in need, you would hope to God that people would be willing to help. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is like, so cheesy, but like walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
And what if that did happen to us?
Yeah, exactly. So going into like the more intense things like concentration camps and stuff like that, obviously there's like horrible things. And a lot of people are talking about the issue happening in China. So basically anyone that's not caught up to speed, I'm just going to give a very quick kind of overview. There's essentially what's detention camps, concentration camps being set up in China for a particular group of Muslim peoples. And they're being tortured, they're being killed. It's horrible, it's horrific. It's like honestly Holocaust all over again. And so a lot of people are looking at that saying, why are we not stepping in? Because this is exactly what happened.
Right.
And why are we not doing something about it? And I was reading an article that was saying that, like, you know, one of the biggest issues that can trigger world wars. And so you're kind of then brought into the dilemma of, do I save this many people and then this many people have to die for it, or do I ignore this many people, kind of thing? And I think that that's like what's so like, it's such a scary concept to think that something that huge is going on and that could trigger something even bigger by stepping in. But I feel like it's so morally wrong to not step in.
Wow, that's really upsetting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I feel like, fuck, man, in like our day and age of technology and like just like what we know, how is there not a more like I've used that word so many times, but like innovative or like creative way to stop this from happening other than like a world war? Like, how do we not have the resources or the information how to like stop this from happening without like involving all these people and sending people to war, basically? Oh God, the world fucking sucks, man.
It really does. This is a depressing episode.
Yeah.
Here's a follow-up question. So if we are in agreement that like we should be stepping into other countries' issues, what then constitutes an issue large enough that it needs outside involvement?
Right. That's the thing, is like there's so much atrocity in the world. We can't possibly focus on all of it at the same time or even in the same lifetime.
But that's what makes it so sad almost, is like I was watching Mindhunter. I'm referencing a lot of things you guys are going to have to go watch and read afterwards. But I was watching Mindhunter, and it's this series on TV about like these people that go and interview serial killers. But they were on this one case in Atlanta where all of these Black children had gone missing, like over 20, I think close to 30 people had gone missing and ended up being killed. And one of the characters basically said something like, how many more need to go missing before this is something that you'll pay attention to? And I think that that's where you get into that issue with stepping into other countries' problems, is that how do you put a marker on that? Like 1,000 deaths? 10,000 deaths?
Right.
Like, how can you put that value on human life and say, like, it's not really worth our attention until it gets to this point?
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a tricky thing. And I also don't know the legality, like you were talking about, behind how do you actually go into countries and stop this shit from happening legally?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the thing, is like, I think that we all sit here and are, and especially like the elections coming up in Canada, we sit here and we just criticize without really
knowing knowing what goes into it.
Yeah, or like what we would be able to do.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that people shouldn't make promises that they can't keep. I don't agree with that. That's fucking politics. But aside from that, it's like, I can't even imagine that nuance. That's the word I was looking for. The nuance that like literally every single thing that's implemented takes.
Yeah. I can't either. And I think that that's the thing, like stepping in on something like these detention camps in China, you would have to do it through a means of something that was probably illegal, like going in and doing something bad, and it would trigger a world war.
Yeah. And
it's just like honestly, there's just so many things that are like so complex that it's like, even if morally like this is so horrible, it's like what is the answer truly? Like, it's just so. Yeah. Well, I'm sad now. Okay, let's land on one final one that's also depressing. Is there any difference in value of life between humans and animals? Why?
Like, but human to human?
First, let's do human to human. Is there a difference in value of life?
I don't think there's difference in value of life between humans. However, this is a hard one when people say, like, they put up the ultimatum of, if there was somebody who was elderly and somebody who was in like their prime, which one would you pick? I think that it is hard, because I hate to put like a thing on it, but like who would progress society further? Yeah. Right? Like the younger person has so much more to give than, well, I don't know, because like there's so much wisdom here. Oh my God.
It's so hard, because it's like emotionally, obviously your like knee-jerk reaction is like, no, of course not. Yeah. Like there's no difference in like value of human life. But then you're like, when you actually think about it, you're like, oh fuck, like, yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing.
God.
There's too many variables. So yes, all human life is equal.
Yes, I think that I would agree with that.
And then do you feel like human life and animal life is equal or no?
Oh.
I know.
I wish that
Hard-hitting questions.
Okay, I wish that I think, okay, knee-jerk reaction, yeah, I feel like it is. But obviously I don't, because I am eating animals and I would not eat humans. So
Good to know.
but that's the thing, is like, obviously I don't. In practice, I don't.
Yeah.
Because I'm willing to eat animals and I'm not willing to eat humans. That even sounds weird to say.
People are like, they're like, you had me. Okay, I'm lost.
But that is like how I feel. So, I don't know. But that's the thing too, is like some plants have, like, if fucking trees can communicate with each other, oh, that puts a whole new spin on things now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess in practice, no, but my heart says yes.
That's fair.
What does yours say?
I think that they are of equal value, not having anything to do with not eating meat, but because it's such a delicate, sensitive, like, biome.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's really tricky, is that, like, if you were to, like, again, like, killing off certain breeds or whatever, like, that does cause massive shift in our world. So that impacts humans and that impacts everything else. So I feel like in that, I do feel like they're equal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That wasn't the worst way to end it. It wasn't the most depressing. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah.
We'd love to know your thoughts on the topics we discussed as well. And maybe some of you guys will be more educated in a lot of those than we are.
I'm sure you will. But
you can tell me and try and hurt my feelings about it. Okay?
And then we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.